Log file growth. It is going to depend on the size, the number of transactions, the recovery model, and your backup schedule. If you're doing log backups every 3 hours, then your log is going to be will need 3 times as much space as if you were backing up every hour. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. If you're in bulk logged or full and you don't back up the log, your log will get large, and much larger even than your data file. You should monitor the performance counter, SQL Server, databases log growths to see how many times your log has to grow. I do recommend that you pre-grow your log file. I recommend that you set it to at least 1/4 of the estimated total size for your data files. And I have something in the book to help you estimate how big the data files are. Okay, something else about transaction logs that affects your performance is VLFs, or virtual log files. Whenever you add space or the log file auto grows, it's going to create new virtual log files. So the transaction log is divided into these virtual log files. If you're adding or auto growing by less than 64 megabytes, it's going to create 4 new virtual log files. Ideally, you want to have around 20 virtual log files for best performance. If you have too many, you get poor write performance. So you want to have, between 20 and 50, but the ideal is around 20. If you have, if you grow less than 64 megabytes, it creates 4 new virtual log files. So they're each going to be 16 megabytes or less. If you grow greater than 64 megabytes but less than 1 gigabyte, it creates 8 new virtual log files. So taking however much space and dividing that by 8. If you grow in increments of greater than 1 gigabyte, it creates 16 new virtual log files. And what happens is, as it's writing to a virtual log file, it fills up one before it moves on to the next. Also, the log backup doesn't clear a virtual log file until it's moved into the next one. So if I have a small number of huge virtual log files and I go and do my log backup, my transaction log might still seem like it's got a lot of stuff in there. And I'll be going, wait a second, David said that the log backup truncates the transaction log. But he's a liar because I still have tons of space being used there. Not so. It may be an issue with virtual log files, that you may have too few. But again, put too many and you get poor write performance. So again, the ideal is between 20 and 50. When you get to 50, you definitely should trim it back. So how do I keep an eye on this thing? Oh, here's a performance test from Lynchy Shea on SQLblog.com. The insert test when he had a small number of log files versus a large number of log files. And you can see how long it took. So that inserting, updating, and deleting took not quite an order of magnitude, was not quite an order of magnitude better when he had a smaller number of virtual log files than a larger number. I've got a query that's available on my blog for how to look at the log space. My blog, for those who don't know, is ilmbestpractices.com. Also fimbestpractices.com, mimbestpractices.com. So you can go there and you can find my blog and you can query for this. And it goes through and it'll help you see the virtual log file sizes. How many there are, what's the max size, the min size, the average size. Because they can also vary in size. So if I'm sideways on this, what do I do? If I have too many, wait for an inactive time of the day. Ideally, you'd want to put the database in single user mode and clear all your transaction log activity through a regular T-log backup. If you're using the simple recovery model, you don't need to do a log backup. You just clear it by making certain there's a checkpoint. Then you're going to shrink the log to as small a size as possible. And then you're going to grow your database, you're going to alter the database to modify the transaction log file to the appropriate size. And then you can run dbcc log info, specifying the database name, and you'll see how many virtual log files you have. Since that was clearly one of the more superior technical how-to videos you've ever seen in your life, I highly recommend you check out our latest video, our playlist, and subscribe.